First up, we're going to hear from Steph Karzon Abrams about the history of psychedelics and house music.
Oh, yeah. That's cool. All right. Well, I appreciate the intro. Hi, everyone. I'm Stephanie Karzon Abrams. I'm a neuropharmacologist. I'm also the founder of Beyond Consulting, which is a firm that supports visionary organizations in plant, psychedelic medicine, and integrative medicine. And I'm also the co-founder, co-creator of Public Secret, a record label and artist collective that's based in the US, Canada, and in Mexico. Yes, baby. Thanks. So my presentation is going to be really short and sweet. Really, this is everything you need to know. So in 10,000 BC, someone ate some mushrooms, saw God, and started drumming. Everybody joined in. In 500 BC, ancient Greeks threw a Dionysian rave. There was wine, ecstasy. Nobody called it therapy, but it really was. In 77, disco was born, and America simultaneously experienced joy and moral panic. In 82, Frankie Knuckles invented house music in a Chicago warehouse shut down. The BPMs were gay, black, and divine. In 85, MDMA slips into the scene, and people discover that hugging strangers is underrated. In 89, rave explodes across Europe, and nobody sleeps for a decade. In 95, the UK tabloids declare, techno makes your brain melt. Meanwhile, your brain is melting just right. In the 2000s, the underground scene keeps thriving. The above-ground culture pretends it invented mindfulness. And today, psychedelics enter clinical trials, and scientists finally admit maybe the ravers were onto something. All right, thank you very much. Just kidding. Just kidding. We got more. And I'm working 2 slides at once right now, so bear with me. All right, so the story begins with rhythm, sacred, communal, embodied. The story of house music didn't start in a nightclub. It started around a fire. Fast forward to the early 20th century, and jazz clubs in Harlem, New Orleans became temples of improvisation and liberation. Music was resistance. Music was soul. And in Chicago and Detroit, disco mutated. Frankie Knuckles, Ron Hardy, and others blended gospel, drum machines into a new form. Clubs like the Warehouse, the Music Box became temples for connection. House spread across Europe. Acid house exploded in the UK. Illegal raves were erupting in fields, train stations, warehouses. Cities like Berlin, Amsterdam, and Ibiza each brought their own flavor to the movement. And ecstasy fueled a new communal consciousness. Today, house is global. From Burning Man to Berghain, from Sao Paulo to Seoul, it lives on. The genres keep mixing, and we continue to hold space for release, resistance, and reconnection. House music was built on the vision of and the labor of brilliant men and women, many of whom were Black, queer, and carving out sanctuaries in a world that often rejected them. DJs like Ron Hardy and Larry Levant were not only curators, they were creators. They were healers in their own way, spinning records as ritual. While the story of house music is often told through the names of male producers and DJs, the soul of house, the voice that lifts us, often belonged to women. From gospel-rooted powerhouses, yes, like Loletta Holloway, Martha Wash, whose voices became anthems of liberation, to iconic artists like Cece Peniston, Robin S., and Ultra Nate, these women were the emotional architects of the dance floor. And across the Atlantic, pioneers like Alfredo Fioretto brought music to Ibiza, blending Chicago tracks with Balearic rhythms, and he ignited a global dance culture that was rooted in freedom and unity and an open-air celebration. The presence of female DJs keeps the movement expansive. Artists like Honey Dijon, DJ Heather, Kay Hand, and Peggy Goo have kept the underground spirit alive, challenging gender norms and reclaiming space. And their presence reminds us that the dance floor has always been a space of transformation, a place where the feminine frequency in all of its forms finds full expression. Do you guys remember the voice behind It's Raining Men, and Everybody, Everybody. Yeah, you guys remember that song, right? So that was Martha Wash. And for years, people never saw her because her vocals were used without credits, sang by supermodels in music videos. She was the most famous unknown voice in dance music, and she fought back. So her lawsuits helped change US law to make vocal credits mandatory. So shout out to Martha. All right, on to the temples, the sites of communion. So in New York, there was Paradise Garage. Larry Levant turned DJing into a spiritual act. In Ibiza, we had Amnesia. Ibiza had Amnesia, a sacred space under the stars where the music wove in house, pop, flamenco, and it helped birth this new sound called Balearic rhythms. It was wild, it was sensual, and it was expansive. And the legendary Amnesia in Ibiza, known today for these massive house and techno parties, actually started as a hippie commune, and it was called the Workshop of Forgetfulness. And people would take LSD and gather and experience an ego death under the stars. So before all the lasers and the VIP booths, it was literally built for spiritual amnesia, forgetting about the self to achieve something higher. And in LA, we had Circus Disco. It was a beacon for the Latinx community and the queer communities, offering something of a belonging, a temple of belonging, in a city that often denied it. So by the late 80s and 90s, the dance floor had become a space for expanded consciousness. Molecules like MDMA, LSD, and psilocybin began to infuse the scene. And they were deeper points of entry for connection, emotional release, and communal ecstasy. And we have to shout out Alexander and Anne Shulgin, the chemist and the therapist who didn't just synthesize these substances, but gave them care, language, and context. MDMA in particular became something of a sacrament. And the music was the container for it all. And what emerged in these early rave scenes was an unspoken therapeutic ethos. People weren't just partying, they were processing, they were bonding, and they were remembering what it meant to be free. It was underground, yes, but it was also sacred. And yes, they were also just partying, and it was a sweet release. And in a world that so often shames pleasure, that in itself was truly revolutionary. So I'm gonna take you through a quick little timeline of some of the most iconic psychedelic parties that took place starting in the 60s with Ken Kesey and the Merry Pranksters, where they threw these parties called acid tests, where they took LSD and danced to the Grateful Dead and other experimental music. And this was the first public coalition of psychedelics, music, lights, and a collective altered state in the West. In the 70s, clubs like The Loft were healing spaces for black and brown queer people in a hostile world. MDMA and acid were very quietly present. In the 80s, in Britain's second summer of love, there were thousands of illegal rave parties in warehouses and train stations, and this was the democratization of the altered state. Then in the 90s, on the beaches of Goa in India, an international subculture of backpackers and DJs threw an open-air 12-hour trance ritual blending LSD and Eastern spirituality. And today we've got the rise of conscious festival culture. We've got Burning Man, which didn't start as a psychedelic event, but over time became a crucible for dance, psychedelics, performances, and radical community, self-expression, and self-acceptance. Sound camps like Robot Heart and Mind Warrior curated transformational experiences that mirrored ancient rites. So, I am a neuroscientist, so I'm gonna drop a little neuroscience on you guys for a quick sec. So our brains are predictive machines, and they're constantly scanning for patterns, but they're also craving surprise. So what this means is that we find a lot of satisfaction in house music because we have repetitive rhythms, subtle shifts and layering, we've got loops, builds, and drops, and at around 120 beats per minute, house mirrors a slightly elevated heart rate, right? It's the body's tempo. And this tempo, the structure, and the sounds all help release dopamine, endorphins, and even oxytocin, which is our bonding hormone, right? So when a drop hits after a build, our nucleus accumbens, which is our brain's pleasure center, lights up. Our breath, our heartbeat, our bodies, and all of our movements begin to entrain, and we sync to the beat. And something even more interesting is that when we dance together, something else happens. We bond. Group dance amplifies emotional synchrony. And when psychedelics are added to the mix, that sense of connection is turned all the way up. That's all the neuroscience I got today. So, house music has evolved, and it will keep evolving. Many subgenres have emerged, and we've got tracks that are blending genres within genres. Boundaries are constantly being blurred and transcended, but if we had to keep things simple, here are 5 subgenres of house that we can discover together. So deep house, which is smooth and soulful, more laid back. We've got tech house, which is a little bit more bouncy, driving. We're gonna make this face, you know? We're gonna get down and make this face. Afro house, more spiritual, more percussive, more tribal. Disco house, Daft Punk, Purple Disco Machine, these are great examples of the genre. Progressive house, a little bit more euphoric, layered and hypnotic with long builds and emotional melodies. And yeah, it's all joyful, you know, but it's also very high risk, and it could also be really weird. You know, someone is definitely petting a speaker in the corner or trying to like explain fractals with their shirt off, but that is the magic and the risk. And while these environments can crack people open very beautifully, they can also crack you open like a piñata at Burning Man. And that's why harm reduction is not a buzzkill. Harm reduction is a guardian. Thank you. So according to a global survey that spanned 2014 to 2021, these were the top... Ooh. Hey, okay, great. This one is doing something, but we don't need that one. So MDMA, LSD, psilocybin, and ketamine were the top psychedelic-like substances used in festivals and nightlife settings. So this is a true story. Yeah, I was leaving a party and I heard, bro, that was the worst trip of my life. I'm never doing 2CB again. I was like, all right. So behind every seemingly funny story is someone who might have been unprepared, unsupported, or just plain overwhelmed. So festivals and events that implement harm reduction, like Zendo Project, Dance Safe, and MAPS affiliated teams are leading the way in creating safer spaces for exploration, because the dance floor is a place for exploration. So the underground dance scenes have long functioned as informal healing ecosystems. Grief processed through movement, identity explored through sound and space. These spaces hold unacknowledged wisdom, where rhythm, chemistry, and community inspire and heal. So what if we stopped shaming this joy and started respecting it as a medicine? Thank you. These are some quotes I've collected over the years about rave. I would love if someone or anyone in the crowd could raise their hand if they've had a personal transformation at a festival, on a dance floor, listening to music. Exactly. I'd love to see it. This is 10 hours plus of house music essentials that I put together for you all if you want to scan that QR code. I'm going to leave it up for just a little while. 3, 2, 1. And this is how you can find me. I'm Steph K, 2 underscores on Instagram. Public Secret is my music label. Check us out. And if you want to check out my firm, it's Beyond Consulting. I'll be around today. Come and find me. Hope you enjoyed this trip through time with me. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. I don't know if we're doing questions. Are we doing questions or are we just... We're not. All right. We can talk later.